with 2 stars likely to miss the Royal Rumble and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for January 14th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. NWA World Heavyweight Champ Chris Adonis, known to WWE fans as Chris Masters, recently sat down on Something to Wrestle, talking about his experience working for Vince McMahon's company. During his time in the promotion, he would have wrestlers try to break his Masterlock, something he wasn't sure would work at first. When it was pitched to me, I was like, oh my god, are the fans going to like this? Would I like this as a fan? Is it too basic? Because you were so conditioned at that point. There was so much cool, innovative stuff that was happening that I was worried, because I would always try to frame it where I would try and put my fan hat back on and be like, would I like this? Sometimes I wasn't sure, but credit to Hunter. We came up with the full Nelson. We did the Masterlock challenge. Not everybody was confident at first, but I think it was Hunter who told them to stick it out. We kept rolling it, pushing it on TV, doing the challenges, and building it. It ended up getting over, with him teasing an appearance in the Royal Rumble after to see if Masters turns up at the pay-per-view. Making an appearance on the Barstool Sports Part of My Take podcast, John Cena talked about AEW bringing out the best in WWE, saying competition brings out the best in us. For all time, going out there as a performer, I wanted to do the best I could possibly do and set the tone for wanting to be the best show between Raw and SmackDown, and certainly have eyes on the segments I was on. I was fueled by a sense of internal competition, not knowing what it's like now to be in a market with a lot of different options. There are a lot of places to watch sports entertainment that would only, for me, fuel me even more to be the best I can be. Following their main roster call-up, fans had high hopes for Hit Row. The faction was seen as a breath of fresh air to SmackDown, but all members would end up being cut from the company. Speaking about a potential return to WWE, Top Dolla told Ringsiders Wrestling, "We really know, not just think. We know that we could have revolutionized the business as a whole, as a group. Now, we're still in a position to be able to do that in a different avenue. Swerve was a star in wrestling before he got to WWE. I was a star outside of wrestling before I got to WWE. Now, we're able to attack all avenues instead of the same avenue, but still work together. The door is never closed with WWE either. People go and come back to WWE literally every year. The only problem is, how does it look like the next time? Is it all 4 of us, 1 of us, 2 of us, 3 of us, none of us?" After being forced to retire from in-ring competition in 2014, WWE commentator Corey Graves could be making a return at the Royal Rumble, given he's been cleared by the company. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Meltzer would note that Corey Graves was cleared by WWE doctors in 2020. The gist is that WWE Medical ruled out Graves taking any physical contact due to a post-concussion issue in 2014, and he retired at that point. Then he was made NXT announcer and did well enough that he's been viewed as the main color guy on the main roster for years. Obviously, while he can return to wrestle, he's not going to. While there is apparently interest from WWE to sign the star, Wardlow recently noted in an interview that he is very happy in AEW and is looking to stay with the promotion. Speaking to PW Insider, he talked about the hate Cody Rhodes receives from fans, claiming that they are simply jealous. Yeah, it's wild, man. I've been affiliated for 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, and I have never had anything but a pleasurable experience with Cody. I mean, he's literally the biggest reason I'm talking to you today, and that I'm in AEW. I have to thank extremely. But yeah, man, I don't know where all that talk comes from. I don't know if it's jealousy, people just hating on him, but I've never seen him treat anybody badly, and I've never had a bad experience with him. With Rhodes continuing to isolate himself after being exposed to COVID, it'll be interesting to see what's next for the TNT champion. As the Tribal Chief and Universal Champion, Roman Reigns is on the run of a lifetime, and it doesn't look like anyone can stop him. Talking about a potential matchup for Roman, Ric Flair took to his podcast to throw NXT Champion Bron Breakker's name into the fray. Bron Breakker, a generational talent. He has the potential to be a great opponent if he stays healthy. Absolutely credible opponent for Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. And if they want believability, bring his dad along too. He is the real deal. Even Breakker himself has hinted at eventually facing Reigns on SmackDown, as this would be an exciting bout. Court Bauer's Major League Wrestling has reportedly filed a lawsuit against WWE for uncompetitive practices due to allegations of WWE blocking a streaming deal, which would have been transformative for MLW. Now, WWE lawyer Jerry McDevitt has responded, with these quotes from him being seen in The Observer this week. "I have not seen the full lawsuit since WWE has not been served. If to be breached, then sue Tubi. As to Vice, WWE has no commercial relationship with them, or for that matter, any of the other dozens of content distribution entities with whom MLW could do a deal with if they had a commercially viable product. They put a show on Vice, if memory serves me correctly, after one of the Dark Side shows, and lost most of the audience. I think I read they got 40,000 viewers. No wonder Vice did no further deal." According to the Wrestling Observer, the AEW deals for those that originally signed with the promotion had expired in 2019, with it noted that they might have already been renewed. AEW didn't make any announcement of this, but the original 3-year deals of all the people who were there at the start, which would be Young Bucks, Cody and Brandi Rhodes, Adam Page, Chris Jericho, and some others, would have expired by now. Some of the others like Nyla Rose, Britt Baker, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky would have expired in a few weeks. The Young Bucks publicly noted that their option years were picked, and per the original deal got a raise for 2 more years. Some of them already signed new deals, notably Scorpio Sky, who last year signed a 5-year new deal, but obviously Page, Cody and Brandi and Jericho were renewed, since they were either on TV this week or confirmed as staying. The Bucks noted that they would be with the promotion under this new deal until 2024. Kenny Omega apparently signed a 4-year in 2019, as he should be under contract till 2023. With Ring of Honor and New Japan holding a G1 Supercard in Madison Square Garden for 2019, it has been noted by The Observer that Triple H allegedly attempted to get MSG to cancel that booking. Has WWE worked to keep different wrestling companies out of venues that they run? Absolutely. That's happened since the beginning of time. It's one of the reasons why there's only been 2 shows scheduled, I believe, for Madison Square Garden. One of them ended up being moved to the Felt Forum, which was the Triple H show that they weren't able to block. They did. The Ring of Honor and New Japan show a couple of years ago. They sold out on the first day, and WWE did get that blocked. Paul Levesque called up Madison Square Garden and said, "We don't want you booking that show." In an update on Sasha Banks and Bayley making their return to action in WWE, Meltzer would report that Banks is expected back just in time for Mania. But whether with or out for so long they go in another direction is a possibility. There is no obvious direction because nobody else on the SmackDown side has been pushed big. If Bayley can return, she's a big enough star. Bayley's return from reconstructive surgery could be as early as February, but is more likely March. Banks' return is also mid-March. Speaking of Sasha Banks, with her out of action due to injury, she will be missing the Women's Royal Rumble. On top of that, it was reported by The Observer that the company had big plans for the star at WrestleMania 38, as she was set to go one-on-one with Charlotte Flair. She is expected to return just before Mania, so we'll have to see if this match is going to take place. Talking about the feud between CM Punk and MJF, Lance Storm spoke on Wrestling Observer Live about the match between Punk and Wardlow, saying this did no favors for anyone involved. It was like, oh my god, Wardlow lost. Wardlow's going to be angry about this. Wardlow had 2 visual victories over Punk. Wardlow was the rightful winner, and it's like this segment damaged Punk a lot. It completely made me not care about Punk MJF anymore. Everyone's into MJF Wardlow, quite probably because they're good promo guys. They can dig themselves out of this hole, but I don't understand putting them, Punk in particular, this deep in a hole that they have to talk their way out of. This was a very damaging segment. When it comes to stars set to miss the Royal Rumble, it looks like we can add Drew McIntyre's name to that list. The former WWE champion has been off programming due to injuries not disclosed by the company, with it reported that he is suffering from neck issues. With him recently undergoing tests on his neck, Meltzer would note that he is expected to miss the Royal Rumble match this year. It is believed that he will be back in time for WrestleMania in April, as WWE apparently had major plans for the star prior to his injury. With Nikki ASH recently turning on Rhea Ripley, that tag team is now no more. On Busted Open Radio, Renee Paquette talked about Ripley's status on Raw, noting that it's surprising given her stature that she could get lost in the shuffle. Can you believe that's the thing though? Can you believe that's the thing for Rhea Ripley? I can't believe it. She's incredible. She's just like this perfect package that is ready to go. She's young, but she's so adaptive. I think she's incredible. I can't believe that she's somebody that could have for a second fallen between the cracks. On his podcast, AEW commentator Jim Ross talked about his experience working for Tony Khan, saying he appreciates not having to deal with Vince McMahon yelling in his headset. Anyway, it's been a fun ride. Tony Khan facilitates that Tony Khan is a big fan of Tony's. Tony is a big fan of mine, and I think he kind of living the dream right now. I know I am. I love it. He lets us work, he's not in our ear, he's not cursing, he's not yelling and screaming and acting possessed. He just treats people really good, and the better you treat people, the more they are going to invest in making your business better. They're no pissed off all the time or frustrated. Negative energy, that's not telling me. So it's good for us. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.